thank you very much. The microphone is working. Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you all for coming to this Indian-Australian evening tonight. I'm Anna, and tonight I'm going to tell you about my travel scholarship to India. My talk will last for about 30 minutes, and there will be time for questions at the end. I will first be going to tell you why I chose to go to India, followed by a description of this huge country, and I will show you 4 out of many places that I visited. At the end, I will link this in with the topic medicinal plants. Just for you to know, I will focus on plants used in Ayurveda. Ayurveda is the oldest type of medicine of humankind and is originated in India. It was the predominant medicine type in India until the 1830s, when the British government didn't accept this as the main type anymore. So, but first of all, I would like to say a big thank you to everyone who helped me before, during, and after this travel scholarship, and to the funding bodies for making it happen. A special thanks goes to Bala Kompali, sorry Bala. Working with you, my first placement really fascinated me so much that I have to do the step and go there. So thank you for that. On the picture you can see Sonam and Amit. I met them in my first week in India, and they were accompanying me to every visit that I've done that first week. And they were there for me as plant guides, translators, and they were just there with every query I had during that week. So, why India? A few years ago I started practicing yoga, which originated in India. Naturally, there was a strong connection for me to India, and thinking about Ayurveda, where a lot of plants are used, and having had the chance to go to a place of my own choice for my travel scholarship, I finally found the chance to combine my huge fascination for India with my horticultural interests. Now I'm going to introduce India to you, as I think it can really easily be forgotten how big this country actually is. Just to have a size relation for you, this is India compared to Europe, and it's overlying the United Kingdom here, so you can really see how big it is. And I think this hugeness, you have to bear in mind that this hugeness is not only leading to climatic differences, but only to cultural differences, such as in food and languages, for example. We will have a closer look at the climatic differences now. So this says biogeographic zones of India, but we will focus more on the climatic differences. So the Himalaya is stretching along here, and zones 1 and 2 are therefore the cold North Asian regions. Zones 3 and 4 are the hot desert regions, where strong links to neighboring countries such as Pakistan can be found. Zone, you can't see the zone very well, it's very dark green and it's stretching along the coast here. It's including a mountain range called the Western Ghats. Here, wet western slopes and dry eastern slopes are found, and therefore there's quite a high level of endemism. It also includes the county Kerala, which is stretching along here, which is known as the Spice State of India. Zone 8 is stretching along the whole coastline, and it includes different habitats such as mangroves and inshore lagoons. And Zone 9 is probably the zone that is richest in communities and species and endemics. And it's home to teas such as Assam, for example, which is named after the region that it comes from. For the first week, I would stay in North India, and in Dehradun, which is lying in Zone 7. This zone is called the Gangetic Plain, so it surrounds the river Ganges. This area is the most fertile area of India. Therefore, a lot of this land is converted to cropland. So there's a lot of this land isn't protected, which led to a loss of species. For the second week, I would stay in Bangalore, which is in the south of India, in India's most widespread zone, as you can see, which is containing over 50% of India's protected areas. So yeah, as I said, for the first week I stayed in Dehradun, which you can see here. Just to bear in mind, this is the Himalaya. Okay. So yeah, for the first week I stayed in the Wildlife Institute of India. This is a governmental institution that is focused on nature research and conservation management. It's predominantly focused on wildlife such as in animals, but there's also one team working on Indian flora, and they've even got a small herbarium, which is very nice and cute. So on these pictures you can see, this is the guest house where I stayed for the first week. This is the view out of my window, so you can see it's really green around there. These were the office complexes, so it was a very nice, interesting architecture to see. And there were loads of these termite hills, and it really made me think, okay, I'm in India now, because you wouldn't see it here. So now we're going on a little journey through the Himalaya. So Dehradun, Himalaya, and this is where I went. We first went to the city Rishikesh, then to Chamba and Dhanoti, I hope I spelled it all right, and then we went back to Dehradun. During this day we had a few stops everywhere, and Amit, the young man you saw earlier, would explain the flora to me. So at our first stop, it was explained that the forest here consists mainly of oak species, and that the type of species depends on the altitude that we're at. On the picture you can see Quercus oblongata, which was the predominant oak species for this stop. So you can see we came up the road here and had a little stop, and I had my first proper Indian experience when a cow came just walking towards us, and I tried to be really brave, but then it came closer, and I wasn't so brave anymore, but Amit was just stroking it and telling him to go away, so I was saved. Looking on these pictures, you can see how low the clouds are, so we are already quite high up, but not high up for how high up you can be in the Himalaya. The higher the altitude, and therefore the more temperate the climate, the more conifers occurred, such as Pinus wallichiana, Abies pindro, and Citrus deodora. Also we found some beautiful species such as this Cornus capitata and loads of rhododendron species. What I found really inspiring in the Himalaya was to see the high agricultural use of land. Oh, sorry, I always forget about this slide. This picture has been taken at the highest spot that we visited that day. And I just wanted to show you how low the clouds already are, and how it was really a nice atmosphere to walk through the garden. It was like a children's playground, and there were also some meditation benches. So it was just a really nice atmosphere. Going back to the agricultural use, we saw quite a lot of areas planted up with crops such as tomatoes, potatoes, rice of course, and we were also driving past a few orchards growing plants such as apples and apricots. On this picture you can see a huge tomato plantation, just for you to have a scale. I don't know if you can see this little blue dot, and there's also a little white dot here. That are people, so this plantation is really, really big. When we stopped here at the side of the street, there were just a few people coming, and they were carrying huge baskets on their backs filled up to the top with tomatoes, and they had to go past on a very rocky path and over a little river here. So they were uploading their harvest on the side of the street where it would then be picked up and driven to the next closest markets to be sold there. In looking at this quite pleasant view of the Himalaya, one needs to bear in mind that all these terraces are actually man-made and that people are working on them and they don't have the tools and machineries that we have, at least not as much of them. And it made me really step back and think about what we have and how much we can appreciate what we have and how easy our life actually is. So this was the Himalaya. Now I'm going to show you another one of my favorite places, which was the Center for Aromatic Plants, also located in Dehradun. This is a governmental organization, and its main objectives are to promote conservation, cultivation, and quality assessment of aromatic plants, and they are also teaching this knowledge to local farmers so that these can farm these plants and develop market linkages for them to have a secure income. The work is focused on roughly 13 plants that are most widely used in the aroma and perfume industry. We got a tour through the outside area of the base offices in Dehradun, and we saw a lot of interesting plants, but also very familiar plants. On this picture you can see Tulsi. It's a basil. Tulsi is the common name for this plant. And just for you to bear in mind, on the label it said Opimum gratissimum, but the proper Tulsi is actually Opimum tenuifolium. So there's a little bit of confusion, but the plants look the same, so I don't really know what went on there. And I'm just speaking as this of Tulsi. The inflorescences and leaves of this plant are used in Ayurveda against coughs and colds and fevers. Furthermore, this plant plays a very big role in Hinduism. It's growing in a lot of Hindu gardens and is worshipped every morning. Walking through the outside areas, we saw a lot of familiar plants such as thyme, oregano, lemon balm. Furthermore, you probably know all this plant, which is lemongrass. We got to taste some very nice tea of this in the afternoon. And another familiar plant, but more in an ornamental way, Pelargonium. Pelargonium graveolens is used, its oil is used as a rose substitute, as rose oil is very expensive, and they have quite similar characteristics, so it's also a very popular oil. In this picture you can see the big distillery apparatus. These are found on all the sides of the farmers so that they can distill the harvest as soon as possible after harvesting it, which is really essential for good quality of the oil. Now we are going across the country, like a 3-hour plane ride away, roughly, to Bangalore, right in the south of India. When I arrived here, which was the first week of July, it was a really pleasant climate because the monsoon season was just about to stop, whereas it was just about to start in Dehradun, and therefore the climate was really, the humidity was quite high, and it was quite hard just to even sit. Bangalore is now more widely known as the IT city of India, whereas it used to be called the Garden City of India. And I think it can be seen because there are still a lot of street trees there and a lot of little parks and stuff like that. I'm now going to show you one of its biggest parks, or botanical gardens I should say, and the FRLHT Ethnomedicinal Garden. Lalba Gardens is the botanical garden in Bangalore, and it's known to be one of the most diverse gardens in South Asia, showing a wide range of plants. Its main glasshouse that you can see here is built after London's Crystal Palace, and also there have been strong connections to Kew in the past regarding plant exchange, as this garden was also run by English people from time to time. the garden is split into different parts, such as the bonsai garden, the topiary gardens, and the rose garden. So this is a very young topiary garden. They also had older topiary gardens with bigger topiary. And on this picture you can see on some areas they were just working because they are for the Independence Day of India, which is held on the 15th of August. They are just decorating the whole city and putting everything into flowers, so they were just working to get it all nicely done. This garden is just like an oasis for people, especially for local people who want to escape the big chaos and noise of the city, and they are coming and having nice walks through this garden. I found a lot of beautiful trees in India, but the most beautiful one I found in Lava. Deva pentandra, which is the white silk cotton tree. Its fruits are producing a cotton which is used to fill beds and pillows, and it's also used in Ayurveda as an antioxidant. This tree is roughly 200 years old, and I hope you can see from the picture what I felt when I was standing under this tree. It was just an amazing atmosphere. It was really nice. One last place I wanted to show you, one of my personal highlights as well, was the FRLHG Ethno-Medicinal Garden in Bangalore. The FRLHG is a governmental organization, and it's a huge complex consisting of the nursery, show gardens, and research centers. The nursery is located around an Ayurvedic hospital, and it also supplies plants either fresh or preserved for the Ayurvedic hospital. So you can see on this picture, the nursery, very nice and organized. I can get very excited about that being as German as I am. On this picture you can see Vitex trifolia. I thought it's a nice picture to show you, to give you an example of how they grow their plants. So they are not using pots, it's like a plastic bag, just a black plastic bag. And they are just putting the cuttings into the soil and it grows, and I think it's quite amazing thinking how much we sometimes try to make a plant grow. On this picture you can see Asparagus rhamnosus, and I think this plant I found mostly in India, being connected to Ayurveda, so I just wanted to show you that as well, relative to our asparagus. On this picture you can see the show gardens that are located around the place. This is a healing giant. Some of you are maybe familiar with healing giants, I don't know. Also the show gardens, and on this picture you can see this is the Ayurvedic hospital. So the area around it is really nice for patients to also go out and enjoy nature and not just be stuck in the hospital. They have the show gardens because they want, one of their main aims is to incorporate traditional medicinal plants back into the life of the people, and to just not just use them in a useful way, but also in an ornamental way. This is bringing me to the main theme that I set this project about, medicinal plants. On this picture you can see a very beautiful plant, I think, in relative to our house clematis. Much smaller flowers, but not less beautiful, I think. Clematis victiana. It's used in Ayurveda for migraines, fevers, and nervous disorders. Yeah, I was always interested in medicinal plants, but soon after I arrived in India, I realized what really a big topic this is. Not only thinking about the big medicine types, such as Ayurveda and homeopathy, but also thinking about all the small medicine types from all the tribes that are living around India. Furthermore, Amit, the young man you saw earlier, told me that every plant is thought to have a medicinal value. So I thought, oh God, where do I start then? Where do I start my research? But this also led me on to not just collect plant names and the uses of this plant, but to find out more about the general use of plants in medicine, and also to find out more about the relationship between plants and people. I also found out, and found it quite interesting, that the doctrine of signatures is still quite actual in India. So I also met some people that were writing a PhD on having a plant, looking what it resembles in the body, and to find out what it might be the cure for. In my first week, I also met an Ayurvedic doctor. These are called Vaida in India. So a Vaida is the Ayurvedic equivalent to doctor. He told me that in Ayurveda it's believed that if there's a disease, there's an unbalance in the body that needs to be cured, for which not only a medicine is helpful, but also a healthy lifestyle is needed, like in the form of proper food, and you also need a proper workout in the form of yoga. It predominantly uses plants for medicine, which is making it a very green medicine. This doctor I met was also quite famous for his work against chronic pancreatitis and some cancer types such as leukemia, which I think shows that it's not just a plant medicine, but it's really actually doing something. You can really have success with it. And what I found really interesting is I was trying to find out a recipe of him, like how does he decide how to set the plants together and stuff. And he was just saying, well, he's just doing it by feeling. He can't really tell me. Yeah, for people like us or like me, it's quite unsatisfying. But he just said, well, every person is different. You can't have the same medicine for everyone, which is quite logical, I think. Furthermore, he mentioned that actually quite a lot of medicine is coming out of the kitchen, such as pepper, cumin, and ginger, for example. And also that he believes that nature is giving us what we need for the diseases that we have. Yeah, as I mentioned, there's not just Ayurveda, there are also a lot of small medicine types found in India, from all the little tribes around. And especially in the north, it's influenced by Chinese or Tibetan medicine. And this is especially the knowledge that the FRLHT wants to conserve and collect. Even from the Ayurvedic doctors, it was pointed out that Ayurveda isn't the cure for everything, and that Western medicine clearly has its strengths that Ayurveda can't achieve. But on the other hand, especially in the poorer areas of the country, people still heavily rely on plants as a medicine, which is making it quite important to save this old knowledge. And whoever knows what we might find out, maybe we find a cure for cancer one day. On this picture you can see another maybe familiar plant. This is pomegranate. Also a good example for things that I use in the kitchen, I use as medicine. The pomegranate is used against intestinal problems in Ayurveda. Regarding the relationship between plants and people, I experienced from visiting all the places, but also meeting up with some private people, that especially in religions such as Hinduism, plants play a much bigger role in the everyday life of people. Looking back on Tulsi, for example, which is grown in a lot of Hindu gardens, which I actually saw growing there, and which is worshipped every morning. You probably all know this beautiful plant. I got a bit crazy when I saw it growing there in the pond really widely, and it was just amazing to see. This plant plays a very big role in Hinduism and Buddhism. It's representing spiritual and mental purity. It's also a symbol for life. I once heard the story that people should be aimed to be like the lotus, like to grow out of the muddy water, rise up to the sky and just look beautiful, beautiful, in whatever way. On this picture you can see the probably most important plant in Buddhism, Ficus religiosa. The legend says that Prince Siddhartha practiced his meditation under this tree, finally found enlightenment and became Buddha. Another story I heard regarding this tree was that women that have difficulties in getting pregnant are told to walk under this tree in the early morning hours. And I heard that actually the oxygen levels are quite high under this tree in the early morning hours, which is quite interesting if you think about these two stories. Yeah, so to conclude my trip, I really found it interesting to see how people still really rely on plants as medicines, and how this old knowledge of Ayurveda seems so present in today's times, for example. But also the whole relationship between plants and people really touched me, and I'm hoping to really take that on for my future career and private life. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little stay in India. You know, actually in some places like here in Dehradun, I was really, really confused. I was thinking, what are all these eucalyptus trees doing here? I thought I'm in India, not in Australia. Whereas I was in India. Nikki is taking you on to the home of these trees now, to Australia. So thank you very much for listening. And